Here's part 3 of the chapter 7 practice. So there are certain radical or rational exponents that you should be able to do mentally. So for example, looking at 16 to the 3/4 power, this is defined as the fourth root of 16 to the 3rd power. Doing the root first, the fourth root of 16 is 2, so it's 2 to the 3rd, which is 8. In the second example, this would be the square root, the bottom number in the fraction is the root, of 4, and then taking that to the negative 5th power. So the square root of 4 is 2. 2 to the negative 5th, I would do 2 to the 5th, which is 32, but since it's a negative exponent, it'd be the reciprocal of that, which is 1 over 32. Next problem is solving radical equations. So to do this, we're going to isolate the radical. We're going to undo the radical and then solve and check. So for number 12, I'm going to want to isolate or get this radical part right here by itself. So I would add 3 to both sides, and then I would divide both sides by 3. So I have square root of 2p plus 1. I've got 18 divided by 3, which is 6. I'm going to square both sides. So I'd have 2p plus 1 equals 36. I'm going to subtract 1 and divide by 2. And I get 35 over 2. Plugging that in, the 2 times, plugging in for p right here, 2 times 35 over 2 would be 35, plus 1 is 36. Square root of 36 is 6. 3 times 6 is 18, minus 3 is 15. So that does check. Next example, we have something to the 1/3 power. Remember, that's really basically the same as the cube root of 2d plus 1 minus 3 equals 4. So I'm going to isolate this part. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I'd have 2d plus 1 to the 1/3 power is equal to 7. I could then undo this by cubing both sides. So I'd have 2d plus 1 is 343. And then I would subtract 1, divide by 2. And d would be 171. Plugging that back in, that would check. And so that's your answer. Next problem involves 2 different radicals. So I do have one radical isolated by itself, this one here. So I'm going to square this side, and if I do to one side, I must do the other. Squaring the right side is real easy. You're undoing a square root. On the right side, we're going to use schmads. So we're going to square the first term. Squaring the square root of x is x. I'm going to multiply these two together and double, which would be a negative 10 root x. And then I'm going to square the 5, which is 25. Then I need to isolate this radical. So I'm going to subtract 25. I'm going to subtract x. I'd have a negative 10 root x equals a negative 29. Root x would be 29 tenths. And then I would square both sides. So I'm going to have 29 squared, whatever that might be, over 100. If I plug that in this case, the big thing is just to make sure that everything ends up being positive, which it does work in this case, and therefore it would check. Hope this helps you in preparing for taking the Chapter 7 summative at some point. Thank you.